Fabio is doing a great job just going around the world with 25 soccer players. I'm talking about John Terry. I'm talking about Memo Ochoa. I mean, these are...
Great to me. Yeah, well, no clue.
Italian Wine Podcast. Chin Chin with Italian wine people.
Welcome to a new episode of On the Road with Stevie Kim. Continuing her interviews that took place at the WineCube in Rome, Stevie sits down with her dear old friend Charlie Arturaola, Italian wine expert and disseminator. Catch their discussion about the relation between wine and football and discover Charlie's new project with Fabio Cordella, Wine of the Champions.
Hello, my name's Stevie Kim and welcome to the Italian Wine Podcast. Today we're, of course, this is the continuation of our WineCube series for Partesa, Rome edition. We did the Milan one, as you know, a few months back, and we'll be interviewing, all the grand masters of wine classes here. And today we have with us, right next to me, our very good friend Charlie. Ciao, Charlie.
Ciao, ciao.
Hi, tell me how you say your last name.
Arturaola.
Arturaola.
Arturaola is Basque, very Basque.
Okay. I'm just gonna call him Charlie Artu.
Yeah. Or Charlie Wines.
Yeah, Charlie Wines. So, Charlie, tell us where you're from.
I was born in Uruguay, but I bounced to Spain very young, and I moved to the Caribbean, and I ended up in Miami for 36 years. So I should say that I'm an American by passport.
But what about your heart?
My heart is Italian because I work I work with Italian
Caribbean,
wines.
Uruguay,
well,
Spain,
no, but I mean,
and then
if
Miami, but your heart is Italian.
Well, because when I say this, I just finished talking to someone who said, when was your first actually contact with Italian wine? I said, I was 5 years old and I drank Nebbiolo because in Uruguay they plant Nebbiolo, the Piemontese people, the immigrants. So my first sparkling, I would say.
It was Nebbiolo? Sparkling?
Nebbiolo sparkling red. And that was my favorite drink because it was sweet. And I was 4, 5, 6 years old. But when I talk about that, of course I got to talk about my wine life, which is around Italian wine since I'm very young and working in the restaurant, the hotel business, the cruise line business, that actually allow me to be around the world.
Well, so actually, this is a funny story because I first met Charlie when he was nominated as the Communicator of the Year.
Award for Italians.
Yeah, it's a Vinitaly sponsored title, the category for the IWSC award ceremony that happens annually. And Vinitaly.
2011.
Yeah, 2011. So it was at the very beginning of my wine career. I hadn't a clue, and I met this gentleman here. So I've known Charlie actually for a very long time.
Right.
Yeah, Charlie.
But I have to say one big thing because you, Stevie, brought me back to a subject which was Amarone della Valpolicella in New York City. And I remember this clearly because it was almost 10 years ago. That you called me about a few days before, I need someone to speak Veneto. And I have to say, to tell the truth, I was very rusty about Veneto in the sense that Amarone was probably never the wine that I was actually always behind of, and the Rosso Veronese. But you brought me back to Veneto and to the Italian wines big time because that day I think we have a wonderful audience. We were like 110 people. Thanks to you, you got me back to Amarone, Corvina, and Rosso Veronese.
That's fantastic. I didn't really recall that because
New York
I have
City,
I have a little bit of Alzheimer. But
in front of the Hudson River, I remember like today.
Yeah. I think it was 360 maybe.
Right.
It was called. It was very beautiful venue. So Charlie, let's get fast forward 10 years and to us here at WineCube. And you ran a masterclass yesterday, right?
I ran a masterclass.
What was the masterclass called?
The masterclass top denominations of origin of the Italian wine map. I have to say I was impressed not only for the selections of WineCube, I was always impressed actually to get to meet all these winemakers that they were showing me their best And when I have to say their best is from Fiano to Nebbiolo, and from a great Amarone to an incredible Vermentino from Sardiana.
So did you also lead the masterclass with the producers or just by yourself?
I wish I was able to do that, but we didn't have enough space.
Yeah.
Because that's how I like to do it all the time, because I allowed the winemaker or the owner to speak about their experience, because for me it's very important. But I have to say, what I was actually very happy yesterday to see a lot of young people making questions.
Good. So tell us, can you give us a little bit of a sample taste of what you did yesterday during your masterclass?
Well, I was impressed actually for a Taurasi Riserva. From the
So you had 9 wines from what I understand,
yeah,
right?
5 reds and 4 whites.
Okay.
But I should say that the Vermentino was impressive. The Vermentino was probably
who was the winemaker?
Audaria. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that well.
Yeah, I don't know either. Look at me, I'm Korean American, so.
So what I'd like to say about the wine was that first to meet the producer before, very young Nicoletta Betti. Nicoletta actually was, a fine producer, but also to see her passion and not even 25 years old. I would say that someone who
She's really young.
Yes, you should actually get to meet her, because I was impressed for the quality. I was impressed for first the amount of wines they do, and also how.
Where is this Vermentino coming from?
From Sardiana. From La Pianura, I would say, when we say Sardiana, we're talking about 40 minutes away from Cagliari. But the amount of quality on the 9 wines that I present, it was showing with the crowd that we had. I mean, there were a lot of buyers, and I have to say, I have to thank Partesa for selecting the wine. I was telling some of the people here today that I said, I cannot believe this amount of quality. I live in France now, and I'm coming and going to Italy very often to find new gems. And yes, we know the classics of every region, of every DOCG, every family. There's the cake is for everybody, and in today's world, I think that there's a lot of wine in Italy that we can say that there's a great quality, and sometimes it passes by in front of your nose and you don't see it or you don't taste it, right?
So Charlie, how long have you been in wine business?
Almost 40 years.
Yeah, 40 years.
Yes.
So how would you say, let's not go back 40 years, but let's go back maybe 20 years, okay? Since 20 years, what have you seen in terms of the evolution of Italian wines and winemaking?
Well, the communication, the different ways that we find to show a vineyard, the different ways we find to tell the story, the storytelling. I will say that is one of the most important things that probably as not many other wine countries, because Italy is very avant-garde, from Val d'Aosta to Etna, as you probably know better than me, that Etna today is booming, right? And little wine countries probably that they need a little bit of push. I was telling to someone yesterday from the Oltrepò, I said, listen, I wish, Riesling was most respected and Pinot was more respected in Oltrepò, but you have here the possibility to see in the last 20 years, the amount of young winemakers. I mean, I work with some enologists, some winemakers from Piemonte, some from Val d'Aosta, and also from Liguria today, selecting some wines and tasting some of what they do. And I have to say, I love when they say, well, I used to sell my grapes before, but now I decide.
Yeah, that's kind of the tendencies, right? A lot of them were selling their grapes to co-ops or different.
Well, remember, we say that in Champagne a lot. The people used to sell a lot to Moet and a lot to Veuve, and now they actually doing their own labels. And that is the future. And I have to say over and over, yes, don't be afraid to taste like, Partesa does. bringing all these young, which of course, we all know the icons, the masters of the Italian wine country, the classics, from, of course, Antinori, Frescobaldi, and I can actually go the whole day talking about those names, but this is an interesting thing. When you actually ask me right now, I remember one day in New York City, there's a wine tasting in one hotel in Manhattan, and they say, well, the 720 wines that are here, they're off the tray, meaning like they don't have importers. And of course, I like to help that. I've been doing that for the last 5 years. Now, remember, I also do wine communication a lot. I'm between 3 TV shows right now.
Which TV shows?
Well, one is in India.
India?
Yes, India, the new frontier. Yes, one in the Basque Country, and one in Italy, in the south, in Puglia.
What are you doing in Italy?
In Italy, we are doing...
It's a TV program?
It's a TV show with soccer players, football players. It's football players that they make wine in Puglia, they make wine in Toscana, they make wine in Piemonte.
Oh, okay.
Wine of the champions. And as a matter of fact, they actually coming from Provine to Italy next week. And it's my job right there is just to try to build up the personality of the football player with the grape. I'm a big soccer fan, so
okay.
We're talking about.
Yeah, it's completely Greek to me. I wouldn't recognize the best soccer player if it were right in front of my nose.
If you guys are actually big soccer, we have Materazzi, we have Schneider, we have Ronaldinho, we have.
And
Cafu.
they all make wine?
They all make wine in Puglia, and I have to say the brain behind is Fabio Cordella. You should get to know him, because Fabio is doing a great job just going around the world with 25 soccer players. I'm talking about John Terry, I'm talking about Memo Ochoa. I mean, these are...
Great to me,
yeah, well,
no clue.
John Terry from Chelsea, from England. Memo Ochoa,
no idea.
Mexican guy from La Salernitana. I'm also Yaquinta. I mean, big players that...
Interesting.
My job in this TV show is just to match the personality of the grape that they choose, because every football player like Cafu or Roberto Carlos or Ronaldinho, they choose Primitivo, Nero d'Avola, Negro Amaro. I mean, Schneider.
Why Puglia?
Why Puglia? Because as I said, the brain behind this idea is somebody Pugliese. What is amazing, once again, is that the ways in Italy, they're looking for the ways to communicate. I was talking to someone right now about fashion and wine. I mean, we know about this, the fashion, big show in Milano every year, every February, March. I mean, that is what is amazing, what's going on in Italy. There's a boom now. Of course, there's a great competition out there too. There's a price competition. There's, appealing. The made in Italy today for me is I don't know, when I say before, my heart is Italian, because I work with Italian wines. I work with Italian restaurants, I worked for the Robert De Niro restaurant group for almost 8 years as a buyer for Italian wines. So my job was to open, Italian restaurants or Italian wine shops or Italian wine bars like Accademia di Vino in New York City. So I always been probably very close to the big families of wine. Now, yes, I know them. I'm looking forward to keep working with them, but I also like this lovely idea of helping the small families. I mean, when people say, oh, I make only 20,000 bottles of Barbaresco. Okay, that's enough. I mean, I don't mind. Of course, a big importer would like to have 200, but I mean, this is, don't cut anybody's dream. I mean, and this is what is wonderful about the booming is happening, check what's happening right here in WineCube. There's these young people from Sardinia. There's a young winemaker from Treviso making an incredible Barbaresco, another astonishing quality. And when I say this, is that actually goes with what we rediscovered, because people in the wine business always say, that, oh, I know everything, you know, oh, I know everything. And one of my pet peeves, I remember, I think this is a nice glass of Prosecco that we have here, but I remember talking to someone one day at the Master of Wine class when they went in Toscana, nobody knew how to explain Prosecco.
Right.
And I feel bad for that. I actually, you know, I talk to many prosecchisti, I talk to many people in the business that myself, I would like to say, I would like to tell everybody the best grape from Molise or Cesanese, like I told someone last night in a trattoria in Rome. I say, listen, you want to order something different from me? Order a Marino d'Oca and Cesanese. And they're looking at me and say, what is that? They say, hey, wait a second, you're in the wine business, you're a sommelier, you should know better than me. I'm a guy in my 60s already. They said, let's drink local, right? I was in Ostia Saturday night having fun with my friends eating supplì because I got to see my friends from Fiumicino I was in my 20s coming to Rome. You know?
Right.
But the wine business today is more complex, but we need to make it simple, Stevie, because I think today we are adding, if it's not into communication, we're adding stuff that we're making people run away from wine drinking.
Okay, well, I will jump to that, and I think this is a good way to end the our small talk here today with Charlie Arturaola.
Oh, Charlie Wines.
Charlie Wines.
Yes, that's how they find it.
That's his handle. So I do agree with him. It's complicated in a way more than we make it to be. So let's try to simplify, especially on the communication side.
Can I say something to everybody? Because congrats to you with that ambassadorship, because around the world, even the Partesa kids, they're all happy that they took your class. They say they brought someone, a blonde girl from America, I don't know who it was. She was, but I said that was really cool.
Right.
And it is keeping, a lot of everybody hooked into what the Italian ambassadorship should be into the wine business.
Great, thank you very much. Okay.
Grazie,
ciao ragazzi.
And that's a wrap. For more fascinating interviews from the world of wine, go to ItalianWinePodcast.com or find us on SoundCloud, Himalaya, Spotify, or wherever you get your pods. Don't forget to subscribe and like all our channels. Chin chin, and thanks for listening.